If this is holding you back, then you need to pay attention. We have been talking about food addiction and the importance of eating more plant based foods and removing the processed foods from your lifestyle. And so we are going to talk about how do you deal with those social aspects, your family, your friends, because sometimes that is what is holding you back. Now, when I started out my journey on my own, and I have four girls. And at the time, they were all at the age when I think my oldest was kind of just finishing up, was in post secondary school. So around 18, 19 years old. And my youngest would have been about 11, 12. So I was still making their meals. And I did it the way that I made something for me and I made something different for them. I still cooked, meat and chicken and stuff for them, but I didn't have that. But, we'd have the same vegetables. So it was kind of a blend hybrid of cooking for them something different than what I was eating. And that was okay for me. And that's what made it work. Now, on my parents, I know that I didn't realize it strongly at the time, but my mom really was thinking about being a vegetarian and removing the animal products and the meats from her diet. But what was holding her back was my dad. She always had this thought that he wouldn't like it. He's a meat and potato guy. He likes his steak and potato and barbecue. And, it's just the two of them. And so that held her back for quite a while. But then what happened is my family invaded them for Christmas one year. And we were all eating, by this time, we were all eating a vegan diet. So when we came, I did a lot of the cooking. My mom helped, but I made most of the meals. And what she saw is that the food was good. Then my dad ate it, and that gave her the courage to make the changes to her diet that she always wanted to make, but had that limiting belief that because of my dad, it was going to be too hard. And so now she eats vegetarian, and my dad will, on occasion, have whatever meat he wants to. And so they kind of have a hybrid approach to it, and they're both happy, but most of the time they're eating vegan. And so, what we're going to talk about today is how do you deal with your family? How can you deal with them? Because maybe you have some ideas or you're concerned about how your family is going to react if you decide to follow more of a plant powered, plant based lifestyle. Remember, we said eat plants, eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. And all of the stuff we've been looking at, the evidence from the scientific perspective shows that we need fiber, we need to have plants, and the processed foods that we're eating is really what's causing us to have food addictions because of the oils, the salts, the sugars, that SOS factor. So, how do you deal with your family? And what's the soft touch that you might want to consider when you're dealing with some kind of people? Because what I find is when you when you really state your case of why to go vegan or why it's a good thing, a lot of times people get turned off. They don't like that. And then we may get into restaurant and travel and how to handle that, but we might leave that for the next episode. All right, so let's get into it. Some tips on dealing with your family. All right. So the first thing is to educate and inform them, for sure. So that is number one. That's a something that you should really consider is educating them. And so when we're educating them, uh, they may not believe you. How about I say that? And so it's funny, but it's not funny, you know? It's funny, but it's not funny. Um, be, so what I mean by that is, you know, it's funny. They're the people closest to you, but they sometimes they need to hear it from another person or another source. So you might want to consider sitting down with your family. Maybe it's your children and your partner, or your partner, however you want to do it, and watch a couple of documentaries. It may be that you have a book and you kind of refer to a book, or you ask your partner to read a book. So those are ways that you can inform them and help educate them without them without it coming from you. Because if they think you're the source, they might think, oh yeah, you're crazy, I don't believe you. So make sure you arm yourself gently with things that you can say to them, or like I said, sit down and watch a documentary. Maybe you go to a vegan fair and see some people talking about a healthy plant-based lifestyle and the health implications of not doing that. And also, I want to just remind you, just they may not like it, they may oppose to it, because it's a big change and it's not one that they asked for. So be loving, but also remember, part of your being loving is that you know that these changes are really important for your family. And so, you want to make the changes if you can, to support your family and your family's health. Involve them as well. So this could be in making choices about what we're going to eat, getting your kids to help chop vegetables or do whatever they can. As they get older, they can do more stuff. And I know I've seen they shows these cooking competitions with the juniors, and they got kids that are very young that are pretty sophisticated in the kitchen. But at least it's good for your kids to involve them, not only because it helps with the changes that you're making, but it also helps them to be self-sufficient later on if they have some of these skills in the kitchen. Um, Lead by example. I can't say it enough, because I raised 4 girls, and the one thing that I learned is that your kids learn by what they see you doing. Doesn't matter what you say to them. You can talk till you're blue in the face, so to speak, but it's not what you say, it's what you do. And that is what they're going to see. That is how they're going to model. So if they see you living a healthier lifestyle, then chances are it will rub off on them. And in my case, that's actually what happened. After a couple of years, 2 of my kids decided to try vegan as well. They did their own challenge, and then they decided that after a month that they were going to continue to eat that way. And we implemented that and integrated that into our family. And eventually, everybody was on board. Maybe not willingly at first, but they did come on board. And how we did it is similar to how I did it with my mom and my dad. It's by providing good meals that they liked. So we um, fed everybody well. And when my kids were getting on board, it actually was great for me, because it meant that I needed to step it up and make sure, I wanted them to embrace the lifestyle, plant-based lifestyle. So I stepped it up and made sure that all the meals I was providing they liked, so they didn't have anything to complain about and say, "Oh, I want this instead." And they were old enough though at that time that I did give them option. If they didn't like it, they could cook their own meat or chicken, whatever they wanted on their own. And at first they didn't want to, but then they really got on board when they realized that this wasn't so bad. There was good choices and good food, and that's a part of the key is to have good food. It's not about, as much of that. If you've got good, tasty food, that's the main thing. So really, that's leading by example. You could do what I did and start gradually. I kind of eased them into it. I didn't say, "Hey, we're going vegan today, and after today, that's it." I started because I was used to already kids who didn't like this and didn't like that. Off with 4 kids, having them all like the same thing the same way was like virtually impossible. I had one who liked a pasta sauce with the ground beef. Another liked it with meatballs, So I was already used to all these things, and I got pretty adaptable and flexible about how I prepared things so that I could try and appease all of them. And I definitely am not the dictator, everybody eats what I cook kind of person. So yeah, so I went all over the place with the flexibility, even before we went to eating plant-based. But be flexible, start gradually if that works for you. You may already be the type of person that just will say, "This is what we're doing," and that's the end. And that's the story. And if you don't like it, you can do whatever you want yourself. But if you start gradually, that will might help your family. Celebrate the successes you have. I know my youngest daughter was probably the one that was the most upset when I told her after she came back from school. She was away for school, and I says, "I'm no longer going to cook any animal products in the food. I'm just cooking plant based." And she told me after she really was upset, but she decided she would try and embrace it. And of all of my kids, she is the one who is the most proud of her vegan anniversary. So celebrate your success, celebrate things as well. Have open communication with your family, and address any concerns they may have. Ask them how they're feeling, and really just kind of embrace everything, involve them, integrate things with your family. You may want to start small. Bowls, like making bowls, is a really great way to start small, because what I do with the bowls is I'll put all the fixings and everything together, and then everybody can take what they want, and kind of that's one of the ways that I deal with the different tastes, and not everybody likes everything, is by putting things kind of almost like a buffet style, and everybody can make their own bowl and put together what they want. And that might help. And if you make a bowl and your family is still eating animal products and you're still doing it gradual, you can have some chickpeas or some beans, which are easy to make. And they can have chicken or whatever you're doing. So those are some of the ways that you can deal with your family and get them on board. And you might be pleasantly surprised when you start and you actually make that first step to getting them on board. And so then, what if we have other people? I'm calling it the elephant in the room. So now we have you know, your people are going to kind of raise their eyebrows at you, maybe. I know when I this is one of my favorite when I was working my corporate job and we were going into the office, we sometimes had lunches, and it could be a lunch and learn. I know it could be a client lunch, it could be different things. And so I was always eating something different than everybody else. And I remember I quite often became the conversation around the table about what I was eating. And the very first words would be, is that healthy? And here's the deal. They could have all ordered, I don't know, McDonald's and be sitting eating a burger or something like that. And I'm having a kind of a salad bowl or something like that. And they would be really concerned that I was not getting enough protein. If was it okay? Was it healthy? Da 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 da, on and on. So definitely the biggest question that I get, and everybody says this, is where do you get your protein? And so this is something that, there's different ways that you can address this. And sometimes if you go, talking a bunch of facts, uh, and they people tend to take it condescendingly, even if that's not the way that you mean it. They might, because I know I hear, oh, the vegans are always like, think that they're better than everyone else. I know I've heard that so many times. And so it's how do you bring it forward lovingly, so that you're not upsetting that person, and that you kind of can move on, uh, for sure. So the first kind of person might be the person who's misinformed. So this is the people like, what I was talking about, where they actually are concerned that you're not getting enough food, you're not getting enough protein. They are used to all of what they've heard, with their processed food diet, and they haven't been informed about the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle. And so they're really concerned that you're doing something that's out there, and they may try and pressure you to into the conventional behavior. And I have to say, I was watching an Instagram video that was so funny, and the person was with their grandmother and saying, I don't eat meat. And the grandmother was saying, there's no meat in this. There's no meat in this. Just a little bit of chicken. That's all. So, people will do that. If my grandmother were here, she would be doing that too. I know my grandmother would be so concerned that I wasn't getting enough to eat, and I wasn't healthy. So with that, instead of trying to educate them, maybe you want to just be diplomatic and say, I'm trying something new. I'm just going to see if it works. Right now, I'm feeling really good with this. And so I just want to stay with this. I don't want to try anything else. And who knows, maybe I'll decide that it's not for me. But for now, I'm feeling good with this. So I just want to stay with what I'm eating. So that's one way you might want to deal with somebody and then move on to change the subject and try and move away from it. And then there's also the person who actually is informed, but they may be aware. They would be aware of the consequences of eating unhealthy food and drink, but they're going to do it anyways. And so you coming in there, they may think, oh, you're there on a pedestal. You don't, yeah, you're following. And so it kind of makes them embarrassed or something, and they may not like that you are kind of showing them up. So if you run across people who are in that kind of frame of mind, again, it's about being diplomatic. Have humility. Let them know, yeah, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying hard, and I don't want to right now um, mess up what I'm already doing. And you could tell them you are feeling better and you really just don't want to mess up the progress that you've made. And I think that's fair. If you've made progress, I wouldn't want to, I was the first one to say, as soon as I kind of take a hold of the temptation, it's downhill from there. And so they should understand that. So there's just a couple of tips that I have come across because I do know that people do think that if you start educating, that you're on your high horse, which is unfortunate. But it I don't know how it is. I remember when I first started deciding I was going to do this and coming up with my big why and everything. And one of my daughters said, "Mom, just make sure you do it lovingly." So that's what the tactic that I am trying myself. All right. Let's get into some tips for when you're at work events or you're eating at friends. And so there's some things that I've tried and some things I've heard that other people have tried. So first thing you can do is let the organizer or the friend know about your dietary restrictions up front. That's the best thing to do. And sometimes they don't care. I was at uh, not a retreat, but I was at a conference and they had an excursion planned. And they basically didn't care they had one meal and it didn't matter what other people were doing or if there were any dietary restrictions. It was a chicken thigh, some potatoes, and a salad. And so once we got there and everybody sat down because it was a big group, then they realized, well, maybe there might be some people that aren't going to want to eat chicken. So what they did, they asked everybody to put up their hand, which I did, and they ended up bringing me uh, more potatoes instead of the chicken. So I had a plate of potatoes to eat for dinner. And, it's a one-time thing. And by the way, potatoes are very good for you. So it's almost the perfect food. And so I was good. I just ate my potatoes and, I don't make a fuss about these things. You could eat before you go so that you're not hungry and then you don't have to worry about it. And somebody that I know does that. And he said, yeah, we put a little bit of food on my plate and push it around, and people don't even realize I'm not eating. And just talk to everybody. So that's another tactic you could take if you wanted. The one that I like is to offer to bring a dish to the lunch or the dinner. And sometimes, hey, other people see it and they like it. And the other thing you could do is bring your own meal. Then you stand out a little bit more because you're eating something different than everyone else. But it doesn't matter. You got to do what's right for you and what will work for you. And I know when I would go to work events and they would have the vegan dish on the side, and I always let my clients and other people go first in the lineup. It was kind of buffet style. And so I would wait till everybody is served. And my vegan meal was kind of gone because other people were eating it. They just took the wrapper off it and everybody was enjoying it. So, you never know what people are going to enjoy. And then the other thing you can do is sometimes when you go to places like a buffet dinner or something, they usually have a salad, some veggies, some fruit. And yeah, it might not be what you want to eat every day, but in a pinch, at least you have something to eat. So it all depends what you're going to do. And I know I've been places where they forgot to get my meal or whatever. And most places are very accommodating. They want to make sure that you get a good meal, or at least you have something to eat. So these are some of the things that you can do when you're eating with your friends and stuff. But above all, be gracious. Don't make a big fuss. At least that's the way that I would do it. And if you're eating out, so this is another one. And the good news is people are getting restaurants are getting better, because if I go to a restaurant and let's say I'm going with a group of friends, I don't know, 4 or 6 friends, and I'm the one vegan in the crowd. If they have vegan options at the restaurant, then the chances are that we can come there and I'm good with that. If they don't have vegan rest options, then we might not, basically, they're eliminated from us coming at all. So a lot of restaurants will have vegan options. And like there's some these social club kind of beer and food kind of places that actually, like a pub kind of thing, that actually have pretty decent menus for plant-based. So you just never know what you're going to find. And the good news is it's getting easier. But do your research. You could go and look at what their menu is. You can call ahead and ask, and let your waiter know. Like, I go into a restaurant, if I haven't done anything special, when I go to the restaurant, I won't even look at the menu until I ask the waiter. And a lot of times they'll go ask the chef, because you just never know. You would think, not that I would advocate for this, but I was somewhere and they had like a French fry. It wasn't a French fry, but it was like a potato dish. And it was just potatoes. And you would think that that would be safe. But I asked anyway, and it turns out that they use duck fat for frying these potatoes. So it's like, okay, that is not going to work. And there could be other hidden ingredients that you're not aware of. So ask up front. Be safe if you really want to stick with a plant-based option. You can be creative. You can look at the sides in the menu. You can bring your own condiments. And the one that is the most recent for me learning is bringing your own food. So if you're really following, and there are some diets and programs that are pretty strict, especially if you are trying to reverse a chronic disease, and or maybe it's about your food addictions. You never know. But I've heard people calling up the restaurant and saying, "Look, I'm coming here tonight with my friends, and I can't. I'm on a special diet. Would you mind if I brought my own food and gave it to you at the kitchen, and then you guys can um, have just I'll say that I'm just going to have my usual, and you can bring me my own food and you can charge me for it. I just can't eat what you've got on your menu." So that I thought was really ingenious. And if you're really that dedicated to your health and your lifestyle, that could be a good option for you. So this one was something that I had heard recently that I thought was pretty ingenious way to get around that. You should also, especially if you're trying to eat healthy, we talked about oils are not great. So you may see there might be hidden oils. Look for words like steamed, baked, grilled, anything that says fried, crispy, rich, creamy foods is probably not going to be on the list of the foods that you should be eating. And don't be shy. Just ask. That's the easiest thing to do. I was traveling with a group of my colleagues, and we arrived at our hotel. It was like 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. And we got all checked in, and there wasn't a lot of places open, and we were tired. We didn't want to go far. and there was a steakhouse across the street. And so we were thinking about going there, but before we would go, I needed to make sure there was something for me to eat. And the concierge actually phoned to the restaurant and asked if they would do something for me. And they said, yes, no problem, come on over. So we go over there and we sit down, and I do my normal thing, and I tell the waiter that I am vegan. And he looks at me and he says,
Uh-oh.
"You're in a steakhouse."
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Well," so I did say to him, "Yeah, I understand that, but I did call ahead and I was told that there would be accommodations for me." So then at that point, he went to the kitchen and asked. So I that's the only time I've ever run across that. Most people and most places, if they're not sure, they go talk to the chef before they make the claim that I'm in the wrong restaurant. I've only had that happen once, but we handled it gracefully. All right. So there's the eating out. Just a little note that sometimes some of the ethnic restaurants may be a little easier to find some plant-based foods because, like Mexican, they use a lot of beans and things. They might be able to like do it without the cheese. Chinese food, Japanese food, Thai food, and Vietnamese, sometimes Italian as well. Italian more like they could do maybe a pasta with a gluten-free pasta and a sauce like a tomato sauce. But one of the things, especially the Asian type restaurants, is watch that they don't have like the hidden stuff like fish and oyster sauce, shrimp paste. They use a lot of those for flavorings. So just be careful. And like I said, most places will be mindful or they'll let you know that there's no way that they can do what you ask or you need. And then we'll just finish it off quickly with travel. When you're traveling, I mean, do your research. For sure, do your research. Look for restaurants and stores that are going to be in the area you're going to be in. One of the tips I have from my daughter, who is a global traveler, what she found is sometimes when you do your research at home, you don't actually see everything. And when you get to that destination, things that you never found or never came up on your search actually show up when you go once you're local. So make sure you can do your research, but also research once you get there, because you never know, you might find different things once you get there. Again, you could do that when you're going to the airport. This is one. Not all airports have any decent options for vegan food, and sometimes it's pretty sparse. So you can do your research about what's in the airport, but you may want to really look about um, eating before you go to the airport. And if you're going to be like all day traveling, you may want to pack some plant-based snacks for yourself, things that you can eat. You could maybe pack a small cooler bag, uh, put a reusable water bottle to stay hydrated, and just make sure you bring your water bottle. Don't take water because any type of liquids will not get through security. Also, sometimes if you're traveling internationally, you may not be able to bring foods over the border. I know I got caught going to the US. The customs is in Canada before you go to the US. And I had cut up apples for my kids. I washed them, and they were probably apples that came from the US. The labels weren't on them, the little stickers weren't on them, and they didn't know where it's from. It's agriculture product, and it was confiscated from me because, but the guy, the customs officer was really nice. He knew, but he said, if you wouldn't have washed it and you would have left the sticker on, I would probably be okay to let you go through. But just be careful because you may not be able to bring the foods across, and it yeah, you can face pretty significant penalties if you go across international borders with uh, foods, especially fresh, kind of farm kind of foods, agricultural foods. And then the other thing is you could try and book a place that has a kitchen when you're in whatever place you're at. So, with an Airbnb or something, or even hotel, like the kind of the hotels that are more like a residence type hotel that have like a little kitchenette, or even as like the main thing is a fridge would be great to look for a place that will be a bit on the accommodating side, um, for sure. And then you can do your research. There's a few places like Happy Cow has an app. There's an app called A Billion. They're building. Well, I found they're building their last year when I got on that one. They're kind of were building um, their information in their database based on people adding it to it. Yelp has stuff. PETA has some information, and then you could go through Instagram and Facebook groups and stuff, and maybe get some good information that way. Just again, a little bit about doing your research, and I just gonna end it with a few snacks. You can do nuts and seeds. Hummus is great with veggies, and you can buy. Actually, that's one that I found in the airports, might be like a little hummus snack with some veggies or rice cakes or something. And I've seen those that you can buy. But if you bring a bigger one or you buy them yourself, they're definitely going to be cheaper. It's all what you want to do. Believe it or not, sauerkraut and kimchi is actually good. I'm just noting that because they are fermented, and you don't need to um, have them refrigerated. They can actually be not refrigerated while you're gone, as long as there's brine covering it. The cabbage or all of the goodies in the kimchi. People on the airplane might not like it if you bring that something like that out, but if you're in a hotel and you have a little jar of it that you bring, you could be okay. And then a trail mix or a granola. You can have dried fruit. You could buy or bring some energy balls. They're really easy to make. So all of those things. And again, if you're going over international borders, you might want to make sure it's in a package so that the customs can verify it if they ask you. And that is all I have to say on kind of what you can do for travel, going out, and dealing with your family and friends. Kathy, any questions or comments?
So I thought it was so interesting about leading by example because I've heard that expression, do as I say, not as I do, a lot. So I thought that was interesting. And I was surprised when I've only been to Hawaii once. It was my dream vacation. And I brought food that I had on the plane because it's very long from where I am. And they wouldn't let me take it through
Oh,
once you get off the plane, because there's so many, they're trying to protect the island. So it might
yeah.
not just be international.
Oh,
It
that's
might be,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, they're trying to really protect the island from some of these pests and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
very
know like
informative.
it is like places like Australia and New Zealand are really very careful. I know my parents were um, used to go to Australia every year to get away from the snow and the cold in Canada, and they would take their golf clubs and their golf shoes. When they got to Australia, the customs would actually make them take their shoes out of their bag and stuff so they could see if there was any dirt on the cleats if they had golf shoes. Because
Wow,
they didn't, like, you had to make sure all of the dirt was removed before you came in, because they didn't want anything that might be harbored in the dirt to come into the country. So
so
they
fascinating.
can be very, very careful of, and very particular about these things because they're trying to protect their country, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And same thing. We have insects here in the last little while that we never had before.
Yeah,
That
here
come from
too. Here too.
other countries. Yeah. Yeah. So, it is a concern that because we are so global now, there's some really great opportunities with being global, but some responsibilities too, for sure. So yeah, and yeah, probably one of the biggest lessons that I have as a parent is doesn't matter what you say, they're going to do, or they're looking at what you do.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you say. It's all what you do. That's what they're looking at. And they're looking too. So trust me, I know that. They look. They figure out what they like about what you're doing and what they don't like about what you're doing. Anyway, we're going to be in the kitchen tomorrow. So join us at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the kitchen. And we're going to whip up something really quick and easy that you can use, if you just want to try some things and substitute. You're not ready. You're just ready to dip your toe in the water. We're going to do something really simple and easy for you tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow.